In this video, I will explain how to name acids and bases according to IUPAC rule. So a very quick review to define acids and bases. So acids are compounds that contain hydrogen ion, and you can see the hydrogen ion here that combines with a non-metal ion here, which is chloride ion here, bromide ion here, and fluoride ion here. So we call this one as binary acids because it contains two elements. There are other acids that contain oxygen. We call it as oxy acids. So also this one contain more than two elements. We can say hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen in this case, and we call it as ternary acids. In simple way, we can call it as oxy acids. So these acids donate hydrogen ion to a base. So what are bases? Bases are hydroxide ion that contain hydroxide ion, and it accepts hydrogen ion from an acid. And the examples are sodium hydroxide, sodium ion and hydroxide ion combine to form sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide and magnesium hydroxide. Here there is a 2 because magnesium ion has a charge of +2. So when you write the formula Mg +2 and hydroxide has a charge of -1. So when you crisscross, you will get MgOH twice. That's the result. Okay. So while naming the acids, we have to remember how to name the binary acid. And for the binary acid, as we said, it contains hydrogen and one other element. So we have to start the name with a hydro, and the name of the second element should end in IC acid. For example, we can name HCl by starting the name with a hydro, and the second element name is chlorine, right? So we are changing that one INE to IC acid. Okay. So another example is HF. How can we name? That's a binary acid as well. So we have to start with the hydro, and the fluorine will change to fluoric acid. And now ternary acid that contain hydrogen, oxygen, and one more element. So how can we name? We have to remember two things in that case. So that means an acid that contain a polyatomic ion with a name ending in ATE, and a polyatomic ion that contain polyatomic ion with the name end in ITE. So if it is ATE ending, we have to name the acid name starting with the polyatomic ion plus IC acid. If it is ITE ending, we have to name the acid starting with the polyatomic ion, and the acid name should end in OUS acid. Let's see the examples with the details for each type. So some examples of binary acids here. First one is HCl. So how to name that one? Since this is a binary acid, I had to start with the word hydro, and then chlorine will change to chloric, and then add the word acid. So second one is HI, that's again a binary acid, so start with the hydro. Iodine will change to iodic, and word acid you have to add. So hydroiodic acid. HBr, since it is a binary acid, I have to start with the hydro, and then bromine will change to bromic acid. Same way H2S, binary because only two different elements here. So hydro, it is sulfuric. Sulfur will change to sulfuric acid. And then HF, hydrofluoric acid. Fluorine will change to fluoric. So these are some examples for binary acids. And now here are some examples of ternary acids. It contains more than two elements. So let's see, in the ternary acids we can see a polyatomic ion is anion here, right? Okay, so then again it is also starting with hydrogen in organic acids. So let's see, we have to name these ternary acids starting with a polyatomic ion, right? So this is the nitrate ion. So the nitrate ion will change to nitrate, will change to nitric acid. So IC acid. And this is the sulfate ion. So we have to start with the sulf. So sulfuric acid. This is little different. So remember this one, sulfuric acid. So this is phosphate. Phosphate we are changing to, also AT is changing to phosphoric acid. And carbonate, this is carbonate ion. So start with the polyatomic. So it is carbonic. So AT is changing to IC acid. So remember all these contain a polyatomic ion. Let's try a few more examples with a small difference in the naming for the polyatomic ion. Say for example, if you have HNO3 and HNO2. So what's the difference here? The number of oxygen is less in this case. So NO2 is, we know the polyatomic ion is nitrite. And in the previous case, the polyatomic ion is nitrate. So ATE ending and ITE ending. So this one, how did I name this one? Nitric, IC acid. Since in the second case, one oxygen is less and it is nitrite, what we have to do is we have to change the name OUS acid instead of IC acid. Another example is H2SO4. We know that is sulfate, ATE, and then we name this one as sulfuric acid. And if we have H2SO3, that is sulfite, ITE ending, and then we have to change the name as sulfurous acid. So that's a difference. One more, H3PO4, we have phosphate here, phosphate, so that means we will have phosphoric acid here. And H3PO3, less oxygen here, PO3, and then that is phosphite, ITE ending, and then we will name it as phosphorus, OUS acid. So that also you have to know. All right. So depends on the polyatomic ion name, the name of the acid, ternary acid changes. So that is oxyacids changes. So here you can see if you know the name of the polyatomic ion, now you can decide what is the name of the acid. Say for example, if ClO4 is the polyatomic ion present and the name of that one is perchlorate, ATE ending. So I have to start with that polyatomic ion, so perchloric. So ATE ending, I will change to IC acid. So the next one is chlorate, again ATE ending for the polyatomic ion. So I have to change that one as chlorate, I have to change chloric acid. And now the next one is ClO2 negative. The name is chloride, ITE ending. So ITE, if it is ITE, I have to name the acid name OUS acid. And now one more example, hypochlorite. Again, ITE ending ClO. And we have to change that ITE as OUS. So hypochlorous acid. So that's the only thing you have to remember. So it is only three things you have to remember. What are they? First, decide whether the acid is binary or ternary. And then if it is binary, start with the hydro and end in IC acid. And if it is ternary, that is oxyacid, start with the polyatomic ion base name and then end in depends on the polyatomic name ends. So if the polyatomic name end in ATE, end the acid name in IC acid. And if the polyatomic ion end in ITE, end the acid name in OUS acid. For naming bases, what we have to do is we just name the first element, that's a metal, and then add the polyatomic ion name, which is hydroxide. So for example, NaOH, how can we name that one? Na is sodium and OH is hydroxide. So we will just say sodium hydroxide. And KOH, K, what's the name of K? Potassium. And then we add the name hydroxide. So potassium hydroxide. So the next one is magnesium hydroxide. Next one is aluminum hydroxide. And last one is, this is ammonium ion and then ammonium hydroxide. So that's how we name acids and bases. So I hope you have an idea of naming acids and bases now.